computer.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson from Above Board TV, Dice Tower Dish, etc., etc.
And all that stuff. And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 372, and we're recording this in the same time zone, amazingly,
I
on
know.
June 4th, 2025. Board Games Insider, powered by Board Game Geek. So, Corey, it's good to see you. We're both on Pacific time because I
I
am.
know. I was ready at our normal recording time at 6 a.m. and you weren't here.
I believe I arranged a later time with you
Yeah,
earlier this
yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah,
Lazy butt, lazy
yeah.
butt.
Well, dude, we're on the same time zone. Why should I get up at 6 o'clock and 5 o'clock? I got up at my normal 7 a.m. local time and had my breakfast and showered, and now we're here recording. I'm here. We'll talk about why I'm here, but I think I mentioned it last week. But anyway, Corey, what's going on in the life of Corey Thompson?
It's
How
been
is?
pretty exciting. So I had a design and development group at the house for a week. They left 2 days ago. So I'm just kind of taking it easy and having mellow days and doing a little bit of busy work around the house cleaning up for the next group. But this was the Brieger Design Group and Weird Giraffe Games. And they were playtesting all sorts of stuff. They were so diligent. There were sheets up on the wall with that where they're supposed to list every game that they tested and little comments, and there were 50 entries, 75 entries of games that got
Nice.
tested. Just want to shout out to Ashwin, who is just an amazing person and a really good designer. He's the designer of the wolves for Pandasaurus, if you remember that one. And I just really like his design. So this was Ashwin Kamath, and he did some word games and some deduction games and logic games. I think he's an up and coming name that we should remember. Uh, the games that I play tested were really fun. I do apologize for the vagueness. I don't know if I have permission to mention a lot of the games that were thrown. These are a lot of games that are under development for All Play and Weird Giraffe and other ones. Also, Nick and Carla, the owners of Weird Giraffe, just the nicest people you could ever ask for. So smart, absolutely brilliant. It's just, I'm lucky to watch this stuff happen. And I just want to throw out there that one of the people who attended is, in fact, an executive for NASA and was solving some
What?
ISS problems
What?
here. So
What?
I don't know if you're aware, but the ISS is losing a little bit of altitude because of the current solar storms have bloomed the atmosphere, which slows down the ISS.
Oh my God.
So they were currently, and I was involved a little bit. They're currently working on ways to attach booster rockets to the ISS to give it speed to maintain its altitude. So I don't know if you're into space stuff at all,
Oh,
but this was all happening here.
oh, that's so, dude. You, I think no, I can't make a dirty comment here. But that was
You
very,
need you need to change your pants there.
that was a very exciting commentary.
So,
Thank you.
and right now I'm kind of gearing up for the next big one. I'm going to be at RageCon in Reno at the end of June. And I'm going to be there with special guest Daryl Andrews, the designer of Sagrada. And Daryl's going to spend a little bit of time at the house here, and we're going to, have some people over and play games and do all the things that nerdy game people do. So that's the excitement coming up.
That's awesome. Is that it? Is that all you're doing?
Well, I mean, I could talk about the space stuff more, but you probably have equally exciting things to talk about.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some cool stuff happening as you know. So over here at the Podfather of Gaming, I'm going to mention again that in the game design space that that I'm living in with Jeff Engelstein, we're in final artwork on the game. Again, it's a Gen Con 26 release, but everything's looking so beautiful. The game has really come together. The extra development that Asmodee did with us was fantastic. So Thank you to Asmodee. We'll have more news about Asmodee in just a little bit here. Um, I'm in Las Vegas, as I think I mentioned at the
Yep,
top of the
yep.
show. Pacific time here. I'm here on an annual trip with my brother and other crazy friends of his, and we do all kinds of bad boy things in Las Vegas. And when you're this age, bad boy things are really kind of limited to eating too much, drinking too much, and gambling
Yeah.
too much. It's not really bad boy things. And they play a lot of golf. And then I record podcasts. So it's a fun time. I'll be at Origins very soon. I can't wait for that. Really, if our listeners are out there, please look me up. Hit me up on Messenger if you want to grab a drink or something like that, or play a game if I'm available. You know I'm going to be there. So that'll be fun. Uh, and then right after that, I get back for one day and I fly to Scotland for another pretty
Wow.
epic trip. It's going to be Scotland for a few days, followed by flying down to Southampton, England for the BGG at Sea Norway cruise, where we're making four ports in Norway: Alesund on July 1st, Mulda on July 2nd, Olden on July 3rd, and Haugesund on July 4th. If by any weird chance you happen to be in one of those cities and you want to grab a drink, that would be fun. If we can do it, I'm going to be with a group of people. But if I can break off, or if we can all go and hang out for a little bit, that's awesome.
I am
And then,
so jealous. I really wanted to do the Norway cruise, but there was just so much other things going on.
yeah, friend of the
It's,
show, Marion, is going.
yeah, I've heard she's
Yeah.
rubbing it in.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. And then from there, once we get back to Southampton, we're going to fly over to Ireland, do a little Dublin, a little Galway for just a little bit. So it's about a 2.5 week trip.
Mm,
Slightly less epic maybe than that Asia trip, but still an amazing,
that is so
amazing time.
fun.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited about all that. Um, in the meantime, we need to talk about the news, and that is the event deck. All right. So the probably biggest piece of news that we
Yep.
got this week, I think this.
And this broke literally while we were recording last week. It I hate it when this happens, where the
Yep.
news breaks, halfway through our recording. So it's as far as possible it's announced.
Right. Right. So on many sources, this came out. I'll read the ICV2 source, and that is that Tabletop Tycoon acquires 5 board games from CMoN. Now, if you recall, we had reported that CMoN was in the process of trying to sell a bunch of its IPs. And the
Yeah, this
number,
was a year and a half ago. They quoted that they were getting $12 million on sale of multiple IPs.
right,
A long time ago, they reported that.
correct, but that never went through. Specifically, it didn't go through, they announced. So I believe this is not the same company. Tabletop Tycoon, their
Yeah,
biggest game is Everdell, of course. They've got plenty of other ones. They've now acquired 5 games. And these were by Eric Lang: Blood Rage, Rising Sun, Ankh, Gods of Egypt. And the other 2 games are Arcadia Quest and Starcadia Quest,
yeah.
for which Eric Lang has design credit, um, alongside with Thiago Aranja, Guilherme Goulard, and Fred Paret. So I hope I got that pretty good. Anyway, so it's very interesting news, very big news. I mean, and this many things are part of this if you think about it, right? Number one, CMoN gets cash, which they desperately need. I don't think it's a secret. I think we could just say it straight out.
Yeah.
They are in bad straits, dire straits, really. Let's just say it, because they have stopped all new development. No
Yeah,
new
they
games.
closed their development house in Brazil. They closed development on all ongoing projects. They have said that they are committed to fulfilling the
Yep.
ongoing Kickstarters. And during this whole turmoil, the new Zombicide has in fact delivered.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So they get cash. 12 million? No, I can't imagine I'm going to go on the record as saying it cannot be that much. Could be, certainly it could be in the millions, but we don't really know what these are worth. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of ways to try to figure it out, but they
There's a
get this.
couple little extras in there. The 12 million number was for multiple IPs, and this was a year ago. The world has changed significantly since then.
Without a doubt.
But Cool Mini has also, in their official press release, said that not only did they sell these 5 titles to Tabletop Tycoon, but they also have a number of IPs selling to an undisclosed other buyer. So there's more money coming in that we don't know the details of yet.
Oh, probably we'll hear about those later, I assume, or I mean, we'll definitely hear that somebody else is producing some older CMoN games without a doubt.
Yep.
So the first thing is CMoN gets cash, very big for them. The second thing is, hey, for fans of, these are some of these are pretty big. Blood Rage, of all of these, Blood Rage, I'm sure, is the biggest game, biggest selling game. That fans are going to not only see the game coming back, possibly different art, possibly different graphic design, but maybe expansions, maybe more products in these lines. I can't imagine that Tabletop Tycoon would not add product into these lines if they're buying 5 big
Yeah.
titles. Very cool. So the next thing we have here is in the Diamond Bankruptcy world. The Dynamite alleges over 500,000 in unpaid invoices. Now, who's Dynamite? I had to ask myself when I saw this article. This is also on ICV2. Dynamite Forces, Dynamite Entertainment is the company, has asked the court handling the Diamond Comics distributors bankruptcy case to require a payment of $500,000 worth of product that the publisher states was shipped to and sold by Diamond after it filed for bankruptcy on January 14th. According to the motion filed by Dynamite on May 27th, Diamond has not paid the publisher for 3 invoices submitted on April 27th, May 4th, and May 11th, totaling $509,114 and change. The attached invoices list several high-profile titles, including the first issues of Captain Planet and Space Ghost Johnny Quest Space Quest. The total also includes sales to the book channel, international sales. So this is interesting. So when a company goes into bankruptcy, most people should know this, when a company goes into bankruptcy, right, and they're filing to have their operations continue, they have to, everybody who's owed money is put on hold, but the company who then is in bankruptcy can continue to do business, but must pay the money that they're owed, that they're getting in product. They got to pay. They've got to have this happening. If this doesn't happen, then you're just going to liquidate everything and everything will go away. There'll be no such thing as an ongoing concern for the company. So they just were not paid, this company, which is very, very interesting and odd.
Yeah, and there's a long list of people that were owed money, and this goes all the way back to Pokemon suing to go higher on the list to get paid earlier. And there's a scrambling right now for what feels like limited assets and who gets it first and who gets it last.
Sure, but the difference here is that this was post bankruptcy money, which is mandated to be paid. Mandated. The Pokemon stuff and there was stuff from there was like over $9 million worth of outstanding invoices when the bankruptcy hit, and then everybody's scrambling to be first in line and stuff like that. We still haven't heard. Still very important stuff that we still haven't heard. Like, what was the sale price, and was everybody paid off? And if not, what wasn't paid off, and who is now lost money? Hopefully some crack investigative reporter can go in there and figure that one out. Also on ICV2, Goliath Games inks a deal with Hasbro to produce Mastermind.
Yeah. Now, for people too young or innocent, Mastermind is Wordle without words. I know that's funny, but Mastermind is a classic foundational game.
Yep.
It is the original board game that has answers of how many pegs, letters, colors, animals are correct, and how many are in the right position, the right order. So Goliath Games is an absolute behemoth. It is an Israeli-based company, and they own Pressman Games along with many others. And Pressman was the original producer of Mastermind. So this is From ICB2, Goliath Games inked a multi-year global deal with Hasbro to become the manufacturer and distributor of Mastermind. Mastermind, originally designed and put out in 1971, still a big hit. So Goliath Games plans on refreshing the games with a new edition. The new edition will feature a new look and a marketing campaign aimed at the next generation of code breakers. I'm equally impressed with a little tiny, oh, by the way, that's at the end of the ICD article. Goliath Games has also partnered with The Sims to produce a new board game. So
Hmm.
that's an interesting little tidbit. The Sims is a pretty big digital IP, and I'd be curious to see what kind of board game comes out of that.
Yeah, I remember playing a crap ton of that, and but it of course has evolved so much since the time I was playing it.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
it
It's
be
been there forever. It's
yeah,
the modern Sim City.
yeah, very, very, very cool stuff. So, also on ICV2, we got a very good news about one of the trade shows, one of the largest independent trade shows in the US for hobby games, and that's ACD Distribution's trade show called the ACD Expo. And Play to Z Games was there. Zev, good buddy Zev, president of Play to
Hardest
Z,
working guy in the industry.
hardest working man out there. He was there, and a lot of interest in the Play to Z games. He said that, and he would not be lying to me. And there were new records for attendance and exhibitors at the ACD Expo, formerly known as ACD Games Day, held at the Monona Terrace Convention Center in Madison, Wisconsin, the week of the 21st, while May 21st. While final numbers were still being tallied, AC Distribution reported over 190 stores and 400 attendees, a record for the event, and 104 exhibitors, up dramatically from 77 last year. I mean, so this is a distribution show. This is a strict B2B show, right?
Yeah.
Like the Gamma Trade Show, right? But this is for one distributor. So this one distributor, which is right now the largest, I'm gonna go out and say the largest of the non-Asmodee, Asmodee distribution in North America is probably even bigger, or at least as big. Alliance, God knows where they are right now. ACD is that next level of distribution in the US, and it's great to see that they had, gosh, that's a 33% increase in that area of number
Yeah.
of exhibitors. That's fantastic at their show.
And let me go ahead and insert another news story that is related.
Okay.
Numbers have come out from the UK Games Expo,
Oh, nice.
and they had a record-breaking convention. UK Games Expo is definitely one of the mega cons with very large numbers. They reported about 40,000 attendees. But the really impressive things about UK Games Expo is their trade floor space and their exhibitor number have now exceeded Gen Con. So their trade floor space is second only to Essen, which is a bar very hard to reach. Essen, as people probably know, is nothing but trade floor space. All it
Right.
is exhibit hall, and it is massive. So
Massive.
congratulations to UK Games Expo for really growing into the industry to become a big player along with PAX Unplugged and all of these mega conventions.
Yeah, I got to get myself back there. Maybe for next year. You want to go next year, Corey?
I would love to go to UK.
Have you
It's
been?
just I have never been. The scheduling is always the same time as some local conventions that I usually have obligations with, such as KublaCon.
It's a rough one because there's also BGG Spring. There's a Geek Way to the
It's
West
a
a couple of weeks, so
very
it's tough.
crowded time,
Yeah,
and it's a very long trip for me.
sure. It's actually right. Another 3,000 miles for you versus me. So hey, we can think about that. The next one. Now I said mentioned at the top of the news that, or before we even got into news, that we'd have some breaking Asmodee news, which just came out. I believe it was yesterday, and is very interesting. And I'm going to take this off of their press release, so it was reported widely. Um, Asmodee celebrates its 30th anniversary with new consumer-facing brand reveal. Quote, inspired by players.
Yeah.
And this comes directly from their press release. Since 1995, Asmodee has pioneered the tabletop gaming industry, bringing iconic titles such as Ticket to Ride, Catan, Spot It, Seven Wonders, Azul, Star Wars Unlimited, many, many more to millions of players worldwide. Tabletop games are captivating more players than ever, and Asmodee is one of the driving forces behind it. Asmodee recently became a publicly listed company in February 2025. We've covered that extensively. By the way, the stock is doing very good. And this new branding represents a key milestone in strengthening Asmodee's direct relationship with players while reinforcing its reputation for quality and innovation. By the way, I'm not recommending, I am not a financial advisor. And if I was a financial advisor, I'm not your financial advisor. Not recommending buying stocks.
But he's my financial advisor.
I'm gonna
So
get, I will be
I
sued at
think
some
there's
point.
a couple things really interesting about this announcement. One,
Yes.
it's a big move for Asmodee to be focusing on the consumers. Asmodee historically has been a brand that focused on business to business and acquisitions.
That is exactly where I was going next. Give me more on that. That was a good one.
That's about it.
Oh, well, okay. So,
The other,
so
yeah, I have
no,
complaints about the whole way they're doing it, but
yeah, we'll go into that too. But this is specifically a shift from Asmodee, which is right 30
yeah,
years old. They have always been as a logo, as a title, as a company. They've always been a B2B company, right? Business
yeah,
to business. Now they want that name to be known as a B2C, business to consumer company. I had a conversation. I mean, I'm dropping names here, but I mean, this kind of stuff is important. I had a
sure.
conversation in the mid 2010s with Christian Peterson, who's become a great friend. He was the
Yeah,
president of Fantasy Flight. He was on the board of directors at Asmodee once they were assumed.
yep.
He was
Founder
that
of Fantasy Flight.
right, and he was the president of Asmodee North America, right, which is part of the Asmodee group.
Yep.
All of this, and we were walking around the Gen Con floor, and he's showing me all of his stuff, like all of the Asmodee brands. They're all there, and he goes, Steven, what do you notice here about all of these Asmodee brands? And I looked, and I'm like, not a single word that says Asmodee
Yep.
anywhere. They specifically wanted Asmodee to be what distributors look for, right? What other businesses look toward.
Exactly.
And now they're taking Asmodee and making it a focus, a central point for gamers as well. They're still going to keep all their brands, right? There's still going to be Days
They
of
always
Wonder.
had a whole bunch of little brands that were known to the consumer. Like I love games by Fantasy Flight. I love games by Days of Wonder. I love games by Repos. I love games by. But Asmodee as a brand, this is a big move. This is a big change.
This is quite a big change, and they're still going to keep all those brands. Those brands are not going away. That's still a thing. They're just now going to play with Asmodee. Funny thing about their logo, I thought, and in their press release, Asmodee is no longer capitalized. It's just small letters, Asmodee. Why? I don't know. Interesting little
It
note.
shows they're a humble multi-billion-dollar company.
they're a humble $3+ billion company. Yes, there's so many of those humble
Yeah,
billion
yeah,
dollar
that's true.
entities out there.
Now, I have to say their new logo, it looks like an advertisement for X-ray specs in the back of a 1950s comic book.
Oh, come.
I
Oh,
don't
that's
like
harsh.
the look. I don't like the look of this logo. It's better than the old, very industrial business square with a little bit of color to show that they're cool. Um,
Oh.
but this is not a great logo.
My friends at Asmodee, Corey Thompson's views do not in all reflect Stephen Bonacor's views. it's uh, I'll go with it's austere. It's very bland. It's just white letters with black
With a
outlines inspired by
with a
players.
casual comic font. It's like one step removed from Comic Sans.
It's not too far from that. It's more like a Helvetica or something. But anyway, it is very plain. But I mean, I think like you kind of made a joke out of what we just did. It might be their, hey, we are humble $3 billion company. I mean,
Yeah,
they may be
totally
playing
true.
with that. I don't know, but I give them kudos for bringing things together. I still believe Asmodee is a force for helping the industry. They really are. I mean, not that they're
Sure.
trying to, but by definition, the big players rise everybody up with them. That happens everywhere. So stay tuned for
Yeah.
more there. There's one other
Now,
thing that I got.
yeah.
What? Oh, you don't want to agree with that?
Oh no, go,
Oh, oh,
go.
yeah, all right. There's one other thing that I got overnight. I woke up this morning to. They've also kind of relaunched their Asmodee.net website, and it's still Asmodee.net. This is the player site. Asmodee.com would be the corporate site, right? And they're calling it MyAsmodee. Everybody calls My something, right? When they have a consumer facing portion. And they've revamped it. It looks prettier and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of thought that was interesting. They're doing this all together. Literally today, I got that email. Yesterday, I got the email regarding the press release with all the information about the new way that they're going to deal with Asmodee as a brand. Very, very interesting stuff.
I think before, because we're going really long on news, and before we get too lost in news, I think we should deal with the elephant in the room, the 30 to 154% elephant in the room, and talk about the news on tariffs, because
Oh,
this was a pretty big one.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Was there news on tariffs?
There's always news on tariffs.
We live in a tariffed society right now.
Yeah, if we're not doing diamond, we're doing tariffs. And quite honestly, we're
Yeah,
usually doing both.
yeah, usually doing both every week. But yeah, this and I kind of wrote a little note in here for Corey, and if Ignacy was here, by the way, he couldn't make it because of the time zones. He's still loving doing the show. I said this SH never ends. Good news, bad news, rinse, repeat. It's we constantly get this. So Corey, why don't you take it away
We
on
had a
tariffs?
a heck of a week. So on May 29th, and I'm reading the report from ICV2, but it's all over the place. A federal court blocked the tariffs as unlawful. So we've reported before, there's been a lot of groups that have sued the government over the tariffs. One of the most talked about is Stonemeyer had joined a local business group suing over the tariffs. This is not specifically that group, but it's a similar group. From ICB2, in cases brought by the Liberty Justice Center on behalf of several businesses and by the state of Oregon, the U.S. Court of International Trade has ruled that the tariffs imposed by the administration under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act were unlawful and blocked enforcement of the tariffs on China, the EU, and most other countries with a permanent injunction. So, a couple things about this. One, the U.S. Court of International Trade is a really weird place to go through for this ruling. I talked to a couple different lawyers, and every one of them immediately were like, "What is the U.S. Court of International
Can can
Trade?
can I
It's a odd group."
Can I comment on that? I mean,
Yeah, of course.
um, there was I've obviously read articles on many news sources in general, not only board game related news on tariffs. The Wall Street Journal,
Sure.
for instance, stated that this court, which has got 12 judges, normally it's one judge, but if it's a constitutional issue, they'll go with a three-judge panel. Many lawyers will come out of law school never even having heard of this court, this federal court.
Exactly.
And if they have heard of it, and I reached out to a very good friend of mine who's a lawyer, and occasionally he's my lawyer, who said, like, yes, I did know about this court, but I would have been hard pressed to tell you what their jurisdiction is if you had asked me before
It's a
this all came
weird
out.
place.
But
But
it's the right place
yeah,
for
this
this
does deal
ruling.
with international trade.
Right,
What everybody is attacking is the tariffs were started on executive order.
right.
And normally tariffs have to be approved by Congress, and there was no approval. It was just an immediate executive order. The way they justified executive orders, there is a law that says under emergency, under times of war, the president has power to instill a tariff. This is if you went to war against a country, you wouldn't have to argue in Congress whether or not to tariff or blockade the
Do a
country
lot of
from
shit. Yeah.
trade, you could just do it immediately.
Stuff.
And the Trump administration has said that the current immigration status is a war. And so it's a little fussy. So this has been the attack point for everybody against the tariffs.
Right.
And this court has said, that these tariffs are not lawful and blocked the tariffs with a permanent injunction. So, of course, the exact same day, the US government, who had immediately appealed this ruling, was granted a stay. So it's a 1 week stay, and it will be addressed on June 9th, which is days from
Which
now.
is only 5 days from now. Right. This is all breaking within the last few days.
Yeah.
So there's only one.
So
Yes. In 5 days,
remember,
they'll be back in court with their new briefs to
yes,
re-argue under a court of appeal. And by the way, this is normal. This is absolutely so the Court of Appeals didn't do
totally
anything
normal.
weird. Didn't do anything weird. They just said, okay, you think you have more stuff to talk to us about, so we'll bring it now that we've got this
They granted
ruling.
a stay, which means that they're not going to enforce the ruling that the tariffs are unlawful for a week. They'll give them time to get their stuff together and argue whether this
Right.
is something that really can be done and whether there's really an appeal going to happen.
Right.
Now, there definitely will be an appeal. This will be argued back and forth. But the insight I got from some of the lawyers I talked to is a 1 week stay is kind of the easiest, lowest bar that could possibly happen. So
Yeah.
it's not a big deal that there's a 1 week stay as far as, oh goodness, the tariffs are. This is kind of par for the course.
Yeah.
1 week is the easiest way to do it. So we'll see next week what happens with the new arguments.
Right. Exactly. Corey, do you want to move on? You think we need to move on to the next segment? I know you were kind of saying we're going long. I guess we are. Maybe we should move on and we'll take the rest of this news next week.
We got a couple more news stories we can do next week, which is totally fine.
Yeah, I think so. These guys can wait a little while, right? Okay.
They have to. We're in charge.
We're in charge of this show, at least. Let's get over to strategy and tactics. All right, so it's good that we don't go too long in the news, so we can take more questions from you. And the first one here, this great question, amazing question from Kiko Arceo, who's at Kiko My God. Oh, that's a funny one. Kiko My God, posting on January 13th. He says, Steven, as a former New Jerseyan, you forgot that Corey was born and raised there.
I lived in New Jersey most of the time until I was 18, man.
So how many years were you in New Jersey? Only 18?
About 18, yeah.
So I'm more of a New Jersey guy than you. You just got there in your formative years. I got there in my later years.
There you go.
So both of us, Steven and Corey. So what is it? Pork roll or Taylor ham?
These are classic New Jersey foods. And I'll be honest, I never really ate either of them.
So it's actually a little weirder than that even. Nobody will understand this unless you live in New Jersey or you follow New Jersey lore. It's such a weird statement to make. But there is a product in New Jersey. It was from a company called Taylor Farms or something like that. Taylor ham. It's essentially a processed sort of pork meat. It's not like pork loin or pork cheek or that kind of. It's a processed pork meat, which is absolutely delicious. And people eat Taylor ham or pork roll. We'll get into that in a second. They eat it on a soft, usually roll with an egg, and then the piece of the pork roll. And it is absolutely delicious. The funny thing, anecdotally, when I go to the United Airlines, I go to the club before a flight in Newark Airport, they have pork roll or Taylor ham, whatever you want to call it, as a sandwich there, which is awesome. I get to do that. It's a really good sandwich.
Classic regional food.
Yes.
Just history. It was developed in 1856 by John Taylor of Trenton. So it's been around a long time, and it is a New Jersey-born product.
It is 100%. But here's the rub. Taylor ham is not ham. They're not allowed to actually call it ham. So I believe they don't even market it that way anymore because it's
Yeah,
illegal to say ham when it's not. Ham is a specific
it's kind
part.
of spam, kind of bologna, kind of, it's processed meat.
Yeah, and it's delicious. But and Taylor still makes their version, but every other people make pork roll, they call it. So
Well, either Taylor's ham, if you buy Taylor ham, the actual brand, the label says pork roll.
right, but it doesn't say Taylor ham anymore, right? I think they had to get
No,
rid of
no, it
that.
just says John Taylor's
Yeah,
pork roll.
right, right. So, but New Jersey people are so hung up. Some of them. I'm going to point to my good friend June. She doesn't listen to this show, I don't think, but she is like lunatic on like which one, and I forgot which one she actually supports. But
It's just what to call this regional
Kiko,
food.
Kiko. First of all, I was born and raised in New York, and then half my life there and half my life in New Jersey. A little bit extra in New Jersey, but half and half. And my thing is, and you might be pissed off. It's I don't care. I don't
I
care.
call it Taylor ham. But by the way, this is not a recent thing where they
Yeah,
took the Taylor ham off the label. That happened in 1906.
yeah, it's exactly right. But people, for whatever reason, kept calling it Taylor ham. I mean, it's just kind of funny.
I think
And
it adds to the
yeah,
regional mystique of it.
yeah.
So
I mean, I think I generally would say it's pork roll, but and that like and especially since I have it now every time I travel to Terminal A in Newark Airport, I have a sandwich of pork roll, egg, and the bread.
it's a
It's
good
good.
breakfast
It's a
sandwich.
really great breakfast sandwich. If you're ever in New Jersey, have a. I guess I'll go on the pork roll side. Have a pork roll and egg
It's
sandwich.
Taylor ham, man.
Ah, there you go. There you go. Even we're going to argue about it. Kiko continues with what classic Euro would you love to get the the Awakened Realms Castle of Burgundy / Puerto Rico deluxe treatment?
This is actually a really timely question now. The question's back from January, but right now, Awaken Realms is redoing Agricola with the
Yeah.
full-blown minis and new artwork. And I never thought I wanted this done to Agricola, but oh man, I
Are they
I want this product.
are they using plastics? Are they using plastic?
Yes,
See, so
yes,
I mean, because the wood, that was one of the first games that had the let's call them coweeples
yeah.
and what else do they have? They have cows,
Sheeples.
sheeples. I think that's the first time the word sheeple came out. I love. Agricola is a classic. It's such a
It is
good
a
game.
great game.
And I haven't played in 15 years probably, but
Well,
it's
I'm
such a
newly
good game.
excited. I want to play this new edition. I want this edition. And it has all of the expansions. I don't know if people in the US realize, but especially in Europe, there are a million expansions and added on card packs for Agricola. They
Right.
were lettered. For a while, they were using alliterative names for them. So there was the A set, the B set, the C. They go up to like V.
Wow.
There is a
They're all mini
stupid,
expansions.
stupid number of card packs and extra. Because the big thing with Agricola, it's farm building, getting points, setting up your farm. But there's a lot of randomness because you get cards that'll let your people be certain jobs. And then the rebuttal to that was Caverna was a more complex version of Agricola with no randomness, no cards. Everything was set. So Agricola, the randomness of the cards is really amazing, and that was what kept getting fed more and more and more with the expansions. And all of them are going to be in the new Game Found campaign.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I was trying to think of other classic Euros like El Grande would look great if you had actual people on the board.
True.
However, you couldn't put the people into the dice into the tower because they have to come out into the no, they could because they don't have to come out. They just sit into the what's called the Castillo. They just sit there at the end and then you count them. I love it. Somebody should do El Grande, the new crazy blown out deluxe version. I think that would be great with actual people.
I think a giant Carcassonne with every single expansion and interesting weird minis for the different buildings and things like that. That would be really
That's not
That
bad.
would
I
be
don't.
fun.
The
It'd
funny.
probably go
I don't
there.
want to play it with all the expansion. I don't want to play games with like 12 expansions like
I
built
don't
in.
want to play them all at once, but I
Yeah,
love to add in this one, add in that one,
I
add in this one.
I agree with that. Kiko's on a roll. He continues, or she. Um, when it comes to deck builders, do you prefer the Dominion style or the Ascension Star Realms style market of cards? Okay, so Dominion style has got that. You put it on
All
like
the
a
cards are
tableau.
available.
It's
Yeah.
all well
You can
all
buy any card at
12.
any time, and you know all cards that are in the game.
12 cards, right? Is that the
Yeah,
number? Three, there's
I
three rows
think
of, no.
so.
15, five, three rows of
Well,
five,
you're
whatever.
counting also the permanent coins
I
that
don't
just
know.
give points.
And Dominion also changed after I stopped playing, and I know they also
Yeah.
have like a separate
Well,
card
Ascension
thingy.
Star Realms had a market of random cards, maybe with a couple really cheesy, like a couple easy, cheap cards that are always available. I prefer
I,
the Star Realms style.
I would agree with that. That when you bring out a static set of cards, you have to create a strategy immediately and try to implement it right there. It's more interesting to see it evolve over time and how you go and how it moves. And this goes back to an early comment I made about Dominion. And this sounds bad, but it's not. Dominion's a fine game. It's a good game. Dominion was a mechanic in search of a game because it's a that deck it set the standard at that moment for deck building, but almost
Yeah,
every deck builder after that did it better. I'm not knocking Dominion. If you're a Dominion player,
it
it's
was
just
foundational. I mean,
foundational.
you can't say,
Yeah,
you cannot understate how important Dominion was for the board game industry.
absolutely correct, my friend. All right, Kiko, on a roll. What's the next one that they say here? Um, I consolidate as much expansion contents into the games box as I can. It always stings a bit to throw away a nice expansion box with great art, but they take up too much space. Agreed. However, I have repurposed some of my favorite boxes to hold small holiday decor. Hey, that's cool.
Oh,
For instance, after getting the Viticulture's wine crate, the base box and Tuscany now hold many Christmas ornaments. Wingspan expansions house our spring trinkets. Has anyone repurposed an expansion box in a different way?
I
Hmm.
I'm terrible. I have thrown away so many expansion boxes. If they fit in the base box, and I get a
So
little peeved if they don't, but if everything fits in the base box, I get rid of that expansion box. Now, my son, editor Jake Thompson, has actually stolen some of those boxes from me and hung them up on his wall. So just purely as art, but I feel no such attachment. I get rid of as many boxes as I can.
yeah, yeah. There are some that I keep. I mean, originally I would keep them all, and then of course as the expansion moves, it gets bigger, bigger, bigger. I've been getting rid of it and consolidating. But there's some that kind of mean something to me, and some that are just outright valuable. The Battlestar Galactica expansions
Oh
themselves
yeah.
are worth, I mean, the Daybreak expansion is worth hundreds, 500, 600, 700, $800 if you try to actually find a copy of it because it's out
Oh
of print
yeah.
forever. So if you ever see my shelves, sometimes you'll see it in the background of this recording or other recordings. You'll see like Battlestar Galactica, the Pegasus expansion, the New Caprica expansion.
Probably
I forgot
still in
all the difference.
shrink.
I think I opened them all, but the stuff in the box might still be like all shrink wrapped. Yeah. I think we can take maybe one more because we're going really long here. What is this one? Oh, that replying. All right. You know what? I'll have to figure this one out for next week because it's got a whole thing going on here with like it was a reply to another thing. But we now need to move on to play testing. All
Ooh.
right. So last week we took a question that was part of the strategy and tactics, a question from our
Oh
our
yeah.
listeners,
It
and
was a great question, better than what I could come up with.
much better than Corey's questions, which all basically suck. But
Thank you.
he's
Thank
at
you.
least
I'm
doing
also lazy, so I'm all for other people doing my job for me.
he's at least doing the work, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
The intern needs to work a little bit, and so it was about legacy games and what do we do with them when we're completed? So we want to go out and ask you, and we did that. So Corey, why don't you read this and I'll go look for a couple of answers.
So, with legacy games, do you keep your legacy games after they are completed? Do you play even once the legacy games after they're completed? Do you go back and play them? Do legacy games after completion have a value in the aftermarket for people to sell, buy, and then play them? Or should you just trash it after you're done?
So we have a quite a variety of different answers here,
Yeah.
from from the keep to trash kind of thing. On the trash side, so to speak, Tommy Kerbo says, I cannibalize these games for my prototypes. I often buy these games at board game flea markets cheap since they have been completed, and I sort the cards and bits for future projects. Would you call this recycling, reusing, or blasphemy? I call it a future play to Z game. Yeah, Tommy, we'll take your prototype when you're ready.
And that
Um,
is probably the most common answer that I've seen is people are not directly addressing what the original question was, is there an aftermarket for legacy games after they're done? Except to say most people I think are saving them. They don't quite know why, and some are scavenging them for parts.
hmm. Brian
So
Brian Carroll says, first, I think all legacy games should be capable of a full reset without an additional purchase. Brian, on that, I disagree with you completely. That's the point of a legacy game, is you should rip cards right on the board. You should do all these things because in the end, you get a game that's unique to you. So we disagree on that, but that's cool.
yeah.
Everybody's got their
Well,
own thing.
we have this argument all the time that it's generally felt that if you make a legacy game, it has to be playable at the end or else you can't sell it.
Well,
However, I think a very small percentage of people actually play it after it's done.
yeah.
It's just like the solo game argument.
Hmm.
Everybody feels that when a game is released, it must have a solo mode. I think there's a ridiculously small percentage of people who do that solo mode.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been, you've seen the trend in the questions that I've been putting up. There's a trend in that kind of investigation.
Really? Oh, look at
Uh,
Corey.
Peter Woken, a good friend of the channel, wrote, I have a couple of shelves dedicated to completed legacy style games. I don't think we've ever played one after the campaign is complete, but they're great reference materials and also an excellent source of components for prototypes. So again, save it. Don't really know why. Never played it again.
I want to
But
finish, if you don't mind. I want to finish Brian's
oh
answer because
yeah, I'm sorry.
besides, no, that's fine, that's fine. We're not sitting next to each other, so you don't see me pointing at the screen like I want to do this. He also continued with the whole stickers and tearing up card thing bothers me, and I think every gamer on the planet had that feeling when they heard about
Yeah.
Legacy. They were like, "What am I gonna do? Wait, you want me to ruin the game as I'm playing it?" By the way, and Rob Davio, right? He's the brainchild of the first Legacy game, Risk Legacy.
Yeah.
When he pitched it to Hasbro, they were like, "This is crazy. You're crazy." And well, he was, but he's a crazy genius, and it's great. He
There
said
is
that
a whole story there. Rob apparently snuck it through Hasbro.
sort
And
of, but some people had to see it, and the people that did see it said, "You're crazy. Okay, let's do this game." He said, and
yep.
Brian continues. That said, it depends on how good the story is and what the game is. If it's a regular storyline, I'd play through with new people and not just contribute to decisions because I know what's going to happen, and can still enjoy the combat scenarios and whatnot. If it's a murder mystery, I might not bother because it's harder to step back. Yeah, that's actually very, very cool. Very good
Yeah.
way of thinking about it.
Mike Patterson wrote, it truly depends on the game. Clank Legacy 1 and Aeon's End Legacy 1 I kept as they're the only forms I own of those two games.
Okay.
Pandemic 1 and 2, King's Dilemma, Rise of Queensdale, My City, and Seafall were all cannibalized for parts. So,
Very, very cool. Let me take one more here from Marshall S. I like trying to pick people that we probably haven't spoken about. And he says, keep. When we finished Pandemic Season 0 and 1, I still haven't done anything more than 1. I got to get to 0. I hear it's amazing. We kept the final state of the game on the table and glued the meeples and other components on the board to put it all in a shadow box to display on the wall. I think that's a great way of using it. That's
I
those things you put it under
totally
under
agree.
glass, or you have a frame around it. Very
Oh, they're
cool.
so cool.
Oh,
If I had more energy, I would build one of these because they look so amazing. I've seen so many people do that.
he says he was not a big fan of season two, so he threw it out. When people ask about the shadow boxes, we always give good stories about the legacy games. Give away some legacy games. Oh, that was his keep kind of section. They said giveaway. Some legacy games have a sticker kit or a way to reset the game, or you can buy a reset, which is, I think that's fair. Going
Yeah,
back to Brian's
I
comment,
think
I think
that's
a
good.
$20 or whatever number. If it's a simple reset, sometimes you need to have all the cards back. If you have a reset, resets are cool. And if the company can do that, certainly they'll love to sell you that too. Throw out in general, we can't give the game away or display it. If we can't do that, we do not make a point. We do not make a point to play a legacy game a second time. Often the game is unplayable from torn card stickers, etc. But often it is playable. You have a game that's your game, only your game, right? Nobody else will have that exact copy, which is I think is cool. And then he finally says replay. Exception would be expansions. We completed role player adventures, then purchased role player adventures Nephra's Judgment, so we will play the new scenario sometime in the future. That's a
Yeah,
nice
Role Player Adventures, I think, was more of a campaign game, and you do have some of this overlap. Like, where does Legacy end and where does just big campaign begin?
right. Very, very interesting and cool. Corey, again, you gave us these not well thought out questions for this week. So what do you have
I
for
work
us?
really hard on
I
these.
know you do, my
I
friend.
added like 5 new questions this week,
Go for it.
mostly because you keep commenting on some of my questions that they're dumb and you'll never use them.
What you got?
Today's this week's question. What are your feelings on games with multiple winners? The classic example here is Cosmic Encounters. You can have multiple people win at the same time. And then the flip side of it, how do you feel about games that have one winner? Or I wrote it wrong. How do you feel about games that have one loser and a whole bunch of winners? And the classic there is the card game Crass Carrier. One person loses, everyone else wins. The US version was called Dealt.
Hmm. So I guess we have to unpack that like one at a time because there's
Sure.
several questions in there, right?
Like
So,
I personally do not like games with multiple winners. It just doesn't hit me right. I don't enjoy the whole partner up and let's arrange it so all 4 of us win and we can do this and that and what just make it a co-op.
um, it's funny. I think that I like these kind of games, multiple winner games. Um, one we said this you wrote it wrong. It's one loser and multiple winners is what you were saying, right? So let me take the game and the games you
Yeah.
mentioned, right? You said Cosmic Encounter is right is a perfect example of a game with multiple winners.
And I'm
What
keeping multiple winners very separate from ties. Every game could have a tie, and a lot of those games could have share the victory if you tied.
right,
We're
right.
talking about games designed to have multiple winners.
And you can, and like in Cosmic Encounter, the again that archetype example, you can collude. There's 100%. It's part of the game to collude. Say, okay,
Yep.
if we do this, we both win. So why don't you do that? And you'll guarantee the win for you, but I also win the game. When I go into a game like Cosmic Encounter, I go in with a certain feeling. Cosmic Encounter is a crazy, chaotic testosterone fest in a lot of ways, right? It's just like you're like beating your chest. I am the greatest one of the cosmos, and you have
Yeah.
these stupid powers. I mean, every power breaks the game.
That's the glory of Cosmic
Yeah,
Encounter
yes, it
is
is. It
that
really is.
there's hundreds of different aliens and they're all ridiculous.
And they literally break the game. Cosmic Encounter is a broken
Yeah.
game. It's a broken game, and I love every second playing it.
Broken
Right?
games can be very fun.
Broken games like the original Betrayal at House on the Hill. It's just one of my favorite games in the world. It will always be. I love it, and the new one's even better. But it's crazy. Crazy things happen.
Sure, sure.
So my answer is I don't mind multiple winners. Yeah, especially when I go in knowing that can happen, especially Cosmic Encounter. That's the archetype in there. And one loser and multiple winners. I've played Delt. I don't remember it right now. Isn't that sort of
Basically,
like it's
it's a
like
shedding game.
Scout,
It's like Scout,
right?
except one person will lose, and then the game ends and everybody else wins.
I didn't remember that part of the game, but again, I don't care at all. I mean, I just, me, I'm an experiential type of gamer, and if the experience is that I'm gonna lose and y'all gonna win, I'm gonna try not to lose, and that's cool. So
That's
that's how I
fair.
feel. How does everybody else feel out there, right? Let's make sure that we get everybody else's opinions on this. I have just entered because Corey wouldn't know how to do this. Oh, I
No, no.
oh
I don't
I'm
know how to use computers.
I actually have to put a title in here. This is playtesting number 372.
Two.
Two. Thank you for that.
Two.
And I hit the post button, and there you go. We have now put up the question for you to answer for us. So go out there to the playtesting thread in our guild and put your answer, and we might take it next week. And in the meantime, we got to go to final scoring so I can hang out and do bad boy things in Las Vegas with old men.
You're so bad.
Yeah, so bad at this age. Final scoring. Thank you so much for listening and help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. If you want to be part of this podcast, you can go to the guild on Board Game Geek, sign up, become a member, ask us questions for the strategy and tactics segment, and answer our question to you from the play testing segment. You're smart people. Go do it. I know you can. Give us a couple minutes of your time. Interact with us on social media. The handles are the same everywhere. That's Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube. And those are Board Games Insider, Portal Games US, Podfather Gaming, Dice Tower Dish, Play to Z Games, and Above Board TV. Follow us on social media and speak directly to us on whichever one of those you like. A special call out to the YouTube channels that we're all on. Those are the ones we really focus on the most. And that's Portal Games Studio, the Podfather Gaming, and Above Board TV. We would really love to see you at a convention coming up. For me, that would be Origins. For Corey and me, the next one after that would be Gen Con, I assume, right, Corey?
I think
Oh,
so.
RageCon. Phew.
RageCon. I'm
Oh,
at Rage. I'm at Gen Con. I'm at Essen. Those are the biggies.
very, very, very cool. I'll most likely be at Essen. I haven't made those travel plans yet, but I'll most likely be there too. And Board Games Insider, of course, was professionally edited by Jake Thompson. Thank you, Jake, for being part of the team. And that beautiful voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments is that of my good friend Ray Greenlee from New Jersey. I know that he says pork roll, not Taylor ham. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Corey, do you have any extra tidbits of information, anything to inspire our millions, if not tens of listeners
I
to this podcast?
We'll talk about it a little more later, but I just wanted to throw out there that literally right before we started recording, Dice Tower announced the nominees for the Dice
Ah,
Tower Awards. And I just want to send a big congratulations to Fantasia Games and Unconscious Mind for
oh,
having a ton of nominees, including Game of the Year. Johnny Pat Canton, I think, is one of the uh, best designer developers out there, really unique styles of games. And Unconscious Mind was a huge project for Johnny. So I just want to throw out a congratulations.
fantastic. Yeah, we'll talk about those nominees on the next things. Is one of the ones we didn't get to today. But everybody, thank you so much for being a listener here. We appreciate it so much. And we'll see you next week. I'll be home.
Thanks again. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, everybody.